What I have prepared for you is called the Householder Code, which is actually one part in the Buddha's teachings. And I will make it into a series that focuses on this aspect because the significant part of learning the Dhamma is actually should be something that is practical enough for us to put into our daily life. And there is actually one of the teachings that is called Karavasa Dhamma, and the word Karavasa is actually mean householder. So it means that there are, in the Buddhist philosophy, there are two types of lifestyle. One is a monk like me, which is the one who renounced the householder's life, not having family, not engaged in sensual pleasure, in order to focus on the spiritual practice. And the one that's still having a regular daily life with families, with responsibilities, and that's actually more with your life. And the Buddha is actually give one of the teachings of the principle extra, especially about that. It's called Karavasa Dhamma. And as I showed you, as you can see on the screen, that there are actually 4 principles in Karavasa Dhamma from Satya, Dhamma, Khanti, Jaka. With the translation of Satya, the word Satya means the truth. The direct translation is the truth, but it can also mean to be truthful, to be direct, to be genuine, to be honest. All of this actually can relate it to the word Satya. The reason I'm pointing this out because when it comes to teachings of the Buddha, where what people call the Dhamma, the meaning of the Dhamma or Dharma is actually means the truth of reality. And in the end, we know that we are born without any knowledge. We don't know anything at all. When we are born, we can't speak, we can't eat, we can't talk, we can't do anything because we're born with so-called something called ignorance. So we don't have any knowledge. Everything that I know right now is because I have learned from something else, or I have experienced, or I have contemplated. And actually, those are the truth that I have known or discovered from myself. And that's why, if you see on the screen, there are 3 levels of knowledge in Buddhism. The first one is the knowledge from listening, just as you're listening to me right now, or you're reading some books that you get from the first layers of the knowledge. The second layers of the knowledge come from thinking, contemplation, experiencing. And those are the 2 types of the wisdom or knowledge that we obtain a lot with these 2 means. All of this is actually because we don't know anything. And when we come to this world without knowledge, we want to know why we are here, what do we have to do, what is our purpose, what really important. So we try to find out the answer. And that's always been in history, of humankind, try to find out the reason of our existence, finding out the answer. But as long as we just rely on the first 2 sources of the knowledge, we can only get as far. And that's why for the Buddha, the seeking of the Dhamma is to use our insight, or through the meditation practice, or through the stillness of the mind, the clarity of the mind, to obtain the Satya or the truth for ourselves. And that's actually why the mission for a life is actually to realize that truth of reality. Because, it's like if I sit in a room that is completely dark, I will not see anything, right? I will not see what is around me. So my perception of the truth around me will be limited. If I turn on the light, I can see more things. So I can perceive more objects around me, which means I can realize, okay, there's a lamp right there, there's a table right there on the side, so I can see them. I realize what is around me. Our perception is still depends on how clear our mind is. The clearer the mind is, the more we can obtain that truth further and further. So therefore, the first 2 sources is still important in a way that it helps us to get some information, at least to get some guideline. But the most important part that we want to focus on is to get to the 3rd layers of the knowledge, so that we can actually find out about the Dhamma. So for something that can be simple, for the truth would be life is short. in one lifetime, we only have, let's say, about 20,000 days, roughly, give or take. So that is not many, to be honest. And that is unpredictable. So with this to a reminder of how significant our time in the present moment is actually could be the starting part of the truth. So that's why in this householder principle, the Buddha put on the word satya as the very first one, because the word the truth is actually what we should realize and we should find. Not only just to seek the truth, but in order to seek the truth, it comes down to three aspects of the truth. The first one is to be truthful to ourselves, to oneself, by being committed to our tasks or duties that we have to do. Number two is to be truthful to one's words, by do as we say and say as we do. And the last one is to be truthful to righteousness, or to the values that we believe in. So by choosing to do what is right, what is good, and what is should be done. So in our lifetime, there are many times that we may come across hindrances, obstacles, challenges that may be tough. And it will stray us from trying to, reaching out to find about something very, very real. And that is why the very first part is all about having satya to ourselves, or committed. That part of being commitment, whatever we do, we will do our best. So that kind of practice that we put on our life is actually gonna help us to keep ourselves focused on everything that we want to achieve. And when we put that in that type of dedication, we eventually reach the goal one day. And that's actually why the word satya can also mean truthful, or always to commit, or to even zealous. All of these is actually help us to kind of stay to the course of finding out the truth. And when we actually already have this state of being truthful, in order to keep ourselves committed, it means that we have to restrain ourselves, have to have some practice, be patient, and also giving away things that we don't need in our life. So for tonight, there are something that you can be committed. Actually, this is something that the Buddha called three impeachable paths, or three practices that can't be wrong. So you can start using these as a way to be more committed on these three aspects of life for the beginning. I find it's very helpful, especially in the modern world, and it sounds very simple actually. The first one, control of the senses. What does it mean? Control of the senses means that if you're mindful, you will know what happened with you, how you feel, what you're exposed to, what happened with you all around, right? So one of the things that I find people these days having more problem with the depressions or anxieties or a lot of mental problems coming from what they are perceived on social network, on the social medias, things that we exposed to all the time. And most of the time we can't withdraw ourselves from them because they are so addictive. So for example, if I started to look down on, let's say, Twitter, Facebook, it would just keep on feeding me with information, and it just kind of go down the rabbit hole, right? So control of the senses, it actually means realize where our attention is. Don't see something that we shouldn't be seeing. Don't listen to something we shouldn't be listening to. Don't taste, don't touch. So basically control our senses of the things that useful or helpful to us or beneficial to us, or not engaging in the senses that are not beneficial to us at all. And that actually takes plus the part of being mindful, being conscious about what is exposed to you. For me, I think this is quite important in the world that we are exposed to so many medias, and one of the major causes of depression or anxiety is actually how that all these information that feeding to us make us feel like the world is terrible, or looking at other people and feeling like, looking in my life and there's a lot of challenges that I don't really feel good about. So all of that is actually when we expose to things that are not necessary to us. So when you are able to be more control of what I expose to my, let's say, seeing senses, so I can choose what to read or what not to read, what to hear, what not to hear, right? And that means we can actually turn our attention to something that's more productive, to read, to look at, to listen to. So rather than allow it just to keep feeding on this algorithm, keep feeding this information to us. So control of the senses would be the very first one to sort of stay committed. So by choosing what is really helpful to you. Second, moderation in consumption. Moderation in consumption is actually a simple way, because once we started to realize who we are, let's say I'm a monk, so what is my need? As long as I just focus on the need rather than what my want or desires are, it helped me to just, enjoy what I have at the moment, rather than feeling like I'm always lacking of something and feeling the need to fill it up. That way I don't have to struggle so much, try to push for more. So moderation in consumption is actually another practice that we can focus on, be committed on, in order to just give ourselves, with more time, more opportunity in life, rather than keep pursuing what is just our heart desire. Doesn't mean that you can't have fun, but having fun doesn't bring you happiness. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy the fancy dinner, but it's just a meal after all. So be moderation to be what is just in the light that it doesn't make you feel like pushing so much, because the word desire in Buddhism actually can put into analogy like a bucket without the bottom. So no matter how much we put, it will never be full. And actually that's one of the reasons people feel themselves not so happy, because there's always something missing in their life. But the moment that they get rid of the desire, they feel more content, and that content makes us more happy. And that's actually coming from the moderation in consumption, when we realize that what we need is already more than enough. And the last one is so-called practice of wakefulness. Mindfulness is actually mean to be aware of what's going on, right? To be aware of my thoughts, my words, my action. Wakefulness is a bit one more step up, which means a bit more vigilant about what could be bad, what could go wrong. Actually, there was something in the monk practice that is called seeing danger in the slightest fault, which means that every situation that I've been, I can actually look at it around and see, okay, this could lead to something bad, so I better avoid it. So actually that is at the level of being mindful, not just being mindful that I know what I'm exposed to, but I can actually begin to look a bit further and what I may come across as something negative. So that is what practice of wakefulness. These are actually the three principles that Buddha said, so-called impeachable path, because if anybody can keep just these three principles, it will, basically keep us more safe and also more, more content with life. So that is actually what I have prepared for tonight, just for the first part about Satya, and just a glimpse of it, because the word Satya is actually what really a big word. The truth is already a lot, and there's a lot more. For me, my part is actually to introduce you some ideas of how to find out the truth on your own, because after all, the knowledge from inside, the insight is the more important than just what you hear or what you have read. What you have gained as a revelation or realization from inside of you is actually your version of the Dhamma or your version of the truth. And that's actually something that sticks with you rather than what I just talk about. So all these guidelines is actually supposed to be helping you along the way so you can have all the time, attention, and focus on that aspect. So three things that I would leave you tonight as the beginning search for the truth would be control of your senses. Things that, is not really helpful to you, people talk about you, things that you read on your screen, if they don't really matter, all you need to do is turn your blind eye, turn into the different direction. It doesn't really matter whether you know it or not, right? Turn it away, let it be. That will make your mind already feel a lot better. 2, moderation in consumption, because you always have more than you need. So when you're happy with just what I got, You really appreciate what's going on with you. You don't feel lacking, empty. The moment you feel content, you feel happy all around. Imagine if you're full all the time, you feel happy, right? If you feel hungry all the time, you won't feel good. And that's actually the one thing about moderation in consumption is about. It helps you feel like you are full all the time. And the last one, practice of wakefulness. What could be something that could go wrong or something that make you feel, and it could be in the negative direction to yourself? Take a step back and walk away and move to different directions. Just these three things would be the beginning part that I think I could leave you as a suggestion for what come across for you to the next time. And I will keep up in the other episode about the so-called householder codes, because there are other principles that in many aspects when you talk about householder, whether it's going to be about yourself, your work, your career, your relationship, family, there are many aspects of householder, right? So we'll keep coming up with things that related to this series in order to help you with some of the principles that may be useful and you can use as some kind of guideline. So for tonight, thank you very much for joining the MEU sessions tonight, and look forward to see you guys next time. Thank you.